Well, thank you for coming to the presentation. Carmen is saying, okay, I can see it right. So yeah, thank you. My name is César García. I'm just connecting this year to make a run from Madrid, Spain, where I live. I think this is my seventh or eighth Maker Faire. I used to travel there a lot every year. Maybe we have met there sometimes. Um, yeah, I like 7 years ago, I worked with other people to launch a makerspace here in Madrid, and trying to write documentation is always a challenge. It's always complex because, well, what do you document? Why do you document? Well, here we are going to try to just to share this information with you all, try to answer some of these questions, but mostly this talk is going to be about the current state of the art on open hardware documentation. The main goal is to have a clear vision of what are the different standards, the different options, and what will be the recommended action course. If you like to document some of your projects, share some documentation, and work with other people. Okay. So as I said, I'm totally open to questions. If you would like to send some of the question on the chat, just feel free during the presentation. So we're going to talk about open hardware documentation. And I'd like to know if you can introduce yourself in the chat, if you maybe you're interested because you have some project, maybe you're interested because it feels interesting in the topic, maybe, I don't know, whatever the reasons, the more I know, the better I could be able to suite this presentation for you. So let's just have this talk. Originally, this talk, if you'd like to know more about this is a version of a workshop we ran during October, because October is a open hardware month, and it's a month where people all around the world join these efforts to document, to celebrate together what has been done during the year. So I think it's quite positive for you to know this and to know that you can also run the next year this information. So why should someone document? What are the reasons? Well, the first reason is that if you are launching a product, if you are launching a project, if you are working on some topic and you want other people to work together, to collaborate and to figure out the I mean what's going on in the project, I think it's quite interesting to just put some time into documentation and in the effort. So also it's an easy way, an open door for the people just to know how they can contribute, because most of the open hardware projects are collective projects like Arduino, for example, or RepRap. Having great documentation just enable all these projects to advance. Otherwise, it could be in like not a really fruitful effort. So why? Because it will help other people to help you. So by putting sometimes you are helping others and you are helping yourself in your future. Things that we will not talk about today is licenses. Licenses is a completely whole theme. Just to give you, if you like to know more, there is this open hardware license from CERN, from the particle accelerator, that was released during the pandemics. I don't remember right now if it was March, April, or May. The lockdown months, there was the right time for them to publish the new standard. So there are so many licenses for open hardware that it could devote like maybe 2 hours just to give the basic introduction. So just we will not be talking about right now about licenses themselves. So what are we going to be talking about? How to document and how to bring more people into your projects by creating awesome documentation. I will share the links. Welcome, Massimo. I've seen Massimo connecting. Welcome to this presentation. And I'm going to start introducing, we're talking about state of the art. We're going to talk about standards. We're going to talk about people documenting. So we're going to talk about documentation based on complexity. And this means, where do I start? If I want to document something, if I want to devote some time to documentation, where do I start? What is my standard? What is the minimum I should do? And I should know. So here is the answer. If you like to document something that is based on steps, procedures, doing things in a particular order, then my recommendation is to start taking a look to Open Manual. And I'm going to switch to the Open Manual site. You can check the Open Manual site here on the okay, I'm going to share this link. This is a standard that was created by the guys at iFixit. iFixit is a very famous place. They run these guides on repairing, and they have been doing a lot of lobbying in terms of fixing things. And usually when they get any kind of hardware, they just disassemble everything and they put some labels that say, oh, this can be easily repaired or not. So if you go to any of the guides for any particular project, like you will see here, this kind of repair guides, let's say, whatever, I want to fix my camera, any camera, I don't know, let's say I have a Panasonic, that is the camera I have. Yeah, any of this model, you look for this, you go to the particular model, and you can see kind of the what is the format of a guide. Okay, you find here who is the author, the difficulty, the steps, the time required, everything kind of how it's done. And basically Open Manual just sets the standard for this kind of minimal information. And for every single process, you're going to find the tool, you're going to find the pieces, the categories, the prerequisites. You can find all this information here. Okay, you can just check how does it work, what are the parts you need, blah blah blah. Everything is kind of here. Even how to 3D print some of the pieces. That is quite interesting by itself. The most interesting part is that this format is an standard. Okay, so if you document, if you click here on the Open Manual site that I just shared, go to read the specification, you can see this is a standard from the IEE Standard Association, and it's a standard for documentation schema for repair and assembly of electronic devices. So there are a lot of people working on this. Some companies like Huawei, Northrop, or Lockheed Martin, yeah, you can see that some companies that are just pushing ahead the standard, and this means that they're using this for the projects. The main idea is that in every package, in every guide, you will find some files, some guides, some media, and everything is here. The most interesting part is that this Open Manual can be used both as a document, as an XML that can be read easily by computers. And also it can be put as an API. So this also means that you can create websites and interactive applications for your phones that are based on this standard. The main challenge is that the company that is pushing ahead, that is iFixit, then created a branch that is called Dosuki for technical process documentation in the companies. And there are not so many platforms other than Dozuki that support the standard and other than iFixit. I hope this changes in this year because there are a lot of efforts being pushed forward. But yeah, I mean, I think it's quite interesting starting point. And the only thing you need is just to collect what kind of tools you need, what pieces, and then you put everything together. And this could be interesting. Even just, I mean, I want to clarify something. Even if you are doing this documentation and you say, okay, Cesar, you just told us that there is this open manual, but it's XML, there is a lot of code. I don't feel like I can write this documentation. Okay, welcome, Guido. Okay, no problem. Just take a look to the documentation and try to write down in a document. Even having some guides is better than nothing. So we're going to go step by step. Welcome, Antonia, to the presentation. The second standard we're going to talk about today is called the Open Know-how. And this is a standard that was created a few years ago, but has been quite popular last year to document some of the processes, to document some of the projects, sorry, no processes. This is focused on project. And the main idea is to take all the information about the project and put it in a super simple format that will make it easy for people to discover your project, to share the information about your project, and to exchange information. Welcome, Pietro. Welcome to the presentation. So it's not focused on where are like the steps of the files, or it's not focused on sharing the STL or anything like that. It's just basically metadata. Okay, this is data about the project. Let me just share for a second the URL. You can find all the information here at openknowhow.org. Okay, here we are. The main idea is that you have even they have a specification, but basically you're going to share the classical information about the project. That is, who is making this thing, where are the files, what has been tried, who are the collaborators, all this kind of information you want to look. What is the license? The classical question you would need to just cover, if you were a journalist and wanted to cover some project, you will find most of the information here. If we go to projects, we can see this search.openknowhow.org, and you will see that there are a lot of projects. I don't know why the photos are not loading right now. Maybe I'm going to open one of these. This is, for example, a filter for the rain. So this is all documented, and you can find here the documentation. So the open know-how, basically it says go to this site. It's not trying to centralize the information. It's just trying to give the people the tools to document the project. Okay. So open know-how is quite interesting, and it will give you this kind of information that you can find like here on the Wikipedia of what is this project about, what is the SDG, what are you working about. So I think it's quite useful to focus on sorting the minimum, and we will give you like practical steps on how to implement this after we review the standards. The next one is the Open Source Hardware Association certification process. This is a self-driven certification process where you put all the license, all the information about your documentation, your software, and your hardware for a particular project, and you share it with the world. So how does it work? If we go here to the open source hardware certification.org, we go here, and they explain every steps. Like you can go here, what is the certification, what kind of things you need to certify, hardware, software, documentation, branding, whatever. And you can see here what are the different options. It's like kind of step by step. You can see here documentation. Okay, you need to put this kind of license or that kind of license. What do you need to know about branding? You can put this here. I'm ready. You can find most of the information here on the site, and it's like just a step-by-step site. What do you get as the result of this? What are you going to get as the final result out of this? Well, if we go to the previous pages and we go here to the menu and the hardware, you can see that this is the complete list of open source hardware projects. There are around 1,200 projects right now, and these are sorted by country. So given that we are in Maker Faire Italy, we're going to look, for example, for Italian projects. We can see that, for example, these are some projects created by Italian people, I2C NAPKey, and for every single project, we're going to find information about who is the creator. You can email the creator. You can find the current version, certification date, and you can find here what are the licenses and where you can find more information about the documentation. So for example, in this case, this project is called the I2C NAPKey. I can click here. I will see just the documentation of the project and the complete schematics. And you will see, if you complete all the steps, you will be given this kind of number that is Italy project number 5, where, well, you can see here the board, and it looks super cute. I have to say, this looks really nice. You can find here the information, the documentation, and the licenses. So if you complete all the steps, you will get kind of this seal of approval where you are just you have kind of certified the project. The most interesting part is that if we have the information completed for the open know-how, completing this is going to be super easy. So my recommendation is go and complete the open know-how, and I will tell you how can you do it in a moment. But this is kind of the very first step. So this is super new. I don't know if anyone here just heard about this, but during this spring, there has been released a new standard by the DIN, that is the Dutch Standardization Office, German, and it describes what is an open hardware project. And I think it's quite powerful. I mean, it's quite powerful because in a way it shows what is they define what is an open hardware, but they also define what are the minimums. And they said, okay, the minimum for a project to be considered an open source hardware is that you have enough information so anyone working on that field is able to replicate that. So let's say I'm doing an electronic board for makerspaces, and I create it in my makerspace, and I say, okay, you can manufacture this in a makerspace. Other people in other makerspaces in the world should be able to replicate that using those tools and using just the documentation you have shared with the world. So I think it's quite important, this part, because the standard, the German standard, has kind of two parts. The first one is what is open hardware, and the second one is how do we certify all this hardware. And what they're doing is that they're proposing, okay, whenever you're documenting something, just clarify what kind of field are you working in. Are you working in chemistry? Are you working in robotics? Are you working in? So we're going to look for other labs, for other spaces, and they can certify as peers that your documentation is good enough. Okay. So I think it's mostly interesting. Hi, Mauro. Welcome to the presentation. That in this spec, they are sharing the information about what is open hardware, how can you certify something, and how do other peers can go ahead and do it. So regarding this, if you want to look for the documentation, I'm going to paste this. This is on the office of the German authority, just saying that if you want to find the second part, you need to look for the second DIN spec 3105.2. I'm just trying to find this. Okay, okay. This is, well, this is so new. This is 2020 July, so this is quite new. Welcome, Samuele. Welcome to the presentation. You can find this document here. And one very important thing, these are covered under Creative Commons license. So again, the documentation itself is available with open licenses. If you want to know more, you can go here to this is the group that has been pushing this forward, has been this Open Source Ecology Germany group with Martin Hauer and other guys. So if you want to take a look, if you want to know more about the standards, what is it, what is the criteria, what are the specs, what are the links, here you can find all information. You can find the raw files, you can find all this information. In this case, they're trying to create what are the particular requirements for any specific field that they're working in, like electronics, what are the minimums, etc. One very important thing, they're working in a solution on this site that is quite interesting. It's called the ojo.wiki. Let me see. This is the Open Hardware Observatory. And here they're collecting lots of information about well, this changes every time. It's like surprising me every time, but it's very interesting to see how is this evolving. You can find here a lot of projects, and most of them are going to be based on this standard we've seen, the DIN 3105/1/2. So this seems promising, but seems quite complex. You need to know what particular field, what kind of information, what do you got on. So yeah, there are a lot of things going on. So we're going to go back to basics. This is all new. The most interesting thing, the DIN spec, new, CERN licenses for hardware, new, uh, tools, new. Everything is kind of launching up. Everything is going to be ready next year or this year or well 2021. And we're going to start with the basics. What would I recommend you to do is I would recommend you just to go ahead and try this thing we are going to share on documenting the project using open know-how. So there is an open know-how online generator that will enable anyone, including you right now, to go and build your own file. So we're going to open the tool. I'm going to explain how to use it basically. And then we're going to open a round of questions, or we're just going to go ahead and yeah, try it. So let me just open this form. I'm going to share the link so you can take a look right now if you want to. Yeah, this is the form. So the main idea is I can just create this kind of manifest file for this project. Let's say I want to do the Piccolino, a board that is a small Arduino, something like this. Piccolino Maker Faire ROM edition. And here you can see that as I'm writing here on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, there is this document created. So this, I can just write, this is a board for Maker Faire ROM attendees, whatever, okay? You can use it, you can use this hardware. So the main idea is that at Maker Faire ROM. The main idea is that you can find this on the, you can find this information here, and you can start filling up. So for example, I could say this is Maker Faire, this is this is Arduino based board. Okay, you can see I'm adding these things in the form, and these are added to the file on the right. The main idea of this whole process is that once you complete the whole form, you can just copy or download the file, and you will be able to incorporate this into your own repository. So if you have this on your GitHub, the idea is that by sending the link to the file, or eventually there will be a search engine that is looking for manifest files, and it's going to create its own search engine. But right now we're in the first steps. So by filling this, whenever you go to a repo of a project, you will see what is the title, who is the owner, who created this file, where are my files. Let's say my files are here, https github.com/piccolino or whatever. The main idea is that you have one file that has all the information about your project, who created this, has this been made, what are the licenses, what are the, someone has made this hardware, yes. Someone has made this independently, yes. Someone just created this using, let's say, CERN open hardware license, yes. So here you can, I think this is Creative Commons by 4.0. By adding this information, I'm just creating like a skeleton of all the needed information to document my project. And by sharing this and copying this, you can go and you can just save this file. And this could be like the first step to realize if you have enough documentation, if you're missing some files, if you don't have clear data about who is doing what in the project, you need to do that. And the good thing is that you can just copy this, but you can also import this if you want to start the process and maybe finish 1 week later. Then you go copy paste, boom, and you import this, and everything is filled up for you. So for me, this is kind of the first step to create useful documentation that is kind of machine ready for what's coming. My hope is that this field will advance lots in the next year. We've seen, for example, the Open Hardware Observatory that I think it's super interesting, and I hope to see like an advance of this, yeah, an advance in this field of open hardware documentation in the next year. I like to know if you can write here on the chat if you knew about any of these standards, if you have used them before, or if you have any kind of question. I'll be happy to answer them, as if there's any question, something that you'd like to know, something you feel curious about. Okay, I'm just going to. So if maybe right now you don't have any questions, maybe right now everything was clear, that, or maybe right now you were just curious about the topic and you like to take a look this afternoon or after this talk. So I would ask you just to take a look to all the links in the chat. And if you have any question, just feel free to contact me. I'm at La Hora Maker in Twitter, and I'll be happy just to have a conversation or figure out what could be kind of next steps, or just point you in the right direction. There are a lot of things happening right now. And yes, if there are no more questions, I'd like to thank you for coming. Maybe next year we can meet there in Rome. It will be a pleasure for all of us to share the same table, to talk a bit, to enjoy being together, instead of being here at home alone together, connected. But I would like to thank also Maker for Rome for pushing this effort forward and making this platform available for makers to connect and to know about other interesting projects and conferences. So thank you for coming. Uh, I'm happy. Just Massimo said thank you. Appreciate, and I hope this was useful. I know there's a lot of information. It takes quite a while to find information, but I hope with the links you will be able to find your way and maybe even just discover some incredible open hardware projects. So I like to thank you also, Maker for Rome, whomever is there, uh, launching these conversations and recording them so that people can see them afterwards. Yeah, thank you to you too. And I think for my part, this is done. So enjoy the fair, have a nice day, and have a nice weekend. Thank you, Sino, for your remarks. Thank you all. Bye bye, and see you next year. Make it fair.